Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We appreciate all comments, whether positive or negative, because it is very important to ventilate both sides of any issue. All we ask is that you observe the YouTube community guidelines. As F1 is on a summer break, looking to resume hostilities with 10 races to go, we think now would be a good time to review Sir Lewis's midterm performance. To put things in perspective, we will also be looking at how his season has been portrayed by his team and the media to date, and you can judge their assessment for yourself. Consequently, we will be using the Mercedes homepage and their breakdown of their season to date, along with corresponding media excerpts for reference. There's no disputing the fact that Sir Lewis's move to Ferrari got the season off to a bang, off track, but this was not replicated on track, as Mercedes started with a squib. Neither of their drivers made it onto the podium for the first 8 full races of the season, but Sir Lewis managed a remarkable second place during the first sprint race of the 5th Grand Prix weekend in China. As we have mentioned in a previous video, for the first 5 Grands Prix at the start of the season, Sir Lewis finished behind his teammate. The circumstances surrounding this unprecedented result fueled speculation that Mercedes were sabotaging the departing Sir Lewis for the benefit of his teammate. Reports started emerging of mysterious loss of power between free practice and qualifying, issues with tire blankets and temperature, biased team strategies and one-sided breakdowns in communication during races. Despite all these factors operating to Sir Lewis's disadvantage, his team came out to denounce claims of sabotage and point the finger at his driving style, which they claimed was outdated. While openly criticizing Sir Lewis's driving style, Mercedes were full of nothing but glowing praise and compliment for George, who was wiping the floor with Sir Lewis like no teammate, including several world champions, had ever done before. Now, just why Toto would be lusting after Crashtappen to replace the departing Sir Lewis, when he has an all-conquering George at a bargain basement price, is beyond us. We would have thought that this would have been an excellent opportunity to reassure George that he would keep his promise to make him lead driver, when Sir Lewis's departure was first announced. Why was thrashing Sir Lewis 5-0 not enough to make Toto confirm George as lead driver for 2025? Yet again, if you can educate us, please do so in the comments section. We also do not know what driving style has to do with any of the issues highlighted previously, including tire blankets, power loss, bias strategies, etc. So, anyone who can shed some light should please do so in the comments section. After all, we are not maxipads. The F1 media were also quick to suggest that George's superiority was not down to any sabotage, but the simple fact that Sir Lewis was tired, demotivated, outdated, aging, degrading, scared, or any combination of the aforementioned. Nevertheless, it appears that this outdated driver somehow began to get on top of things, and according to Mercedes, this was down to the upgrades that they added to the car. Now, why these upgrades would favor the outdated driver more than the modern George, who was already dialed in, is beyond us. But this is the type of gobbledygook word salad that spews out of Mercedes nowadays, so yet again, if anyone can decipher their language, please educate us in the comments section. After all, we are not Dolphys. Well, Sir Lewis went on to make dramatic improvements from the second third of the first semester onwards, to outperform his teammate by 6 races to 3, 5 podiums to 2, and 2 wins to 1, to open up a 34-point lead in the drivers' table. Just as a sidebar, George was the first of the teammates to win a race, when the 2 cars ahead of him came together in Austria. For Sir Lewis though, he won his first race fair and square, with no one ahead of him suffering any misfortune, beyond being overtaken cleanly by him. His stroke of good fortune came in Belgium, when his team tried to use a bias strategy, to put his teammate ahead like they had done in Canada previously, for example. Fortunately, this time around, they outfoxed themselves by going for a one-stop strategy that relied on them being able to con the stewards by leaving some petrol in the car to ensure that it met the minimum weight requirements. The ploy failed, George was disqualified, and the victory was restored to the rightful winner. So, Mercedes are now in the position where the much criticized and outdated driver is outperforming their much praised and modern driver. Oops. Well, apart from looking at Sir Lewis's performance vis-à-vis his teammate, we will now extend the comparison to include the rest of the class. We have restricted our comparison to the top 6 plus Russell, for ease of reference. Here, we can see that Sir Lewis, who currently resides in 6th place, is 49 points behind second-placed Lando Norris, who in turn is 78 points behind runaway leader Crashtappan. This of course puts a lie to the much-touted claim that this is a more competitive season than the previous two, where Max ran away with 2 consecutive titles and gazillions of records. Max is still running away with this season, and Lando is more likely to come under threat from Sir Lewis than threaten the runaway leader. Max has 1/2 of the 14 races so far this season, and out of the remaining 7 races, only Sir Lewis has 2 victories. He and Oscar Piastri are the only drivers to have outscored Crashtappan in the last 5 races, with Sir Lewis of course making the bigger impact by outscoring him by 12 points. Interestingly enough, this is one of the very limited credits that Mercedes reluctantly gave Sir Lewis on their website, but as has regrettably become their style, they messed up the analysis. They claimed that over the last 5 races, Sir Lewis had outscored Max with 108 points. Well, this is simply untrue, because as you can see from the tables, with a total of 95 points, Sir Lewis outscored Crashtappan in the last 5 races, but both have 108 points from the last 6. Critically, it should be noted that over the last 5 races, Sir Lewis has scored more than double his teammates' points. Maybe the water in their eyes is stopping them from accurately toting up Sir Lewis's points. The Mercedes midterm report appears to us to be a study in saltiness, but let us know your opinion in the comments section. After all, we are not Johans. The Mercedes homepage opens with a headline image of George Russell. Is this because George is their leading driver, or the one who is being left behind? Is this in keeping with their much-touted claim that they wanted to end their final season together on a positive note, with plenty to celebrate? Is this in keeping with the same energy that Mercedes sent Bottas off with in Abu Dhabi, in 2021? Perhaps ghosting Sir Lewis's victory in Belgium is Mercedes's new and reserved way of celebrating their joint achievements together. While Mercedes made sure their website was shorn of any images of Sir Lewis celebrating his well-earned Belgian victory, they were not backward in coming forward to stake their claim in that victory, and that of Silverstone as well. In their midterm recap of the season, Mercedes made no mention of Belgium at all, beyond the generic admission that Sir Lewis won 2 races, which by deduction includes Belgium. Of course, they had to give pride of place to Silverstone and a mention to Austria, but nothing at all about Belgium. Talk about celebrating. It is interesting to note that Toto is missing from the group photo celebrating the epic Silverstone victory, with his place apparently taken by Andrew Shovlin, Toto's reliable sidekick when it comes to publicly criticizing Sir Lewis. With the benefit of hindsight, Bono's absence from Sir Lewis's side now takes on a different meaning. By the way, if anyone has any knowledge of Mercedes publicly criticizing George, you know what to do. Now, Mercedes have shown themselves to be particularly bad at gaslighting, because they turn themselves inside out, spewing gobbledygook from both sides of their mouth. They need to consider bringing someone in from Red Bull or Liberty Media to show them the ropes, because securing Crashtappan's services on the present evidence will cause an implosion sooner rather than later. Having successfully gaslighted Belgium in one report, by not mentioning it directly, Mercedes attempted another gaslighting in a second report. This time, they attempted to gaslight Sir Lewis's victory and George's disqualification together. But this was poorly executed, as all attempts to gaslight the disqualification only highlighted the gaslighting of the victory. To begin with, Mercedes made the report predominantly about gaslighting the disqualification, but started off by confirming the reason for the disqualification. By confirming unequivocally that the breach was because the weight of the car without fuel fell below the minimum limit, there was no room left for gaslighting. This bold declaration automatically exposed all the gaslighting that Mercedes had been engaging in previously, about George's weight loss during the race, and the price of milk in Uzbekistan, having contributed to the breach. To then claim that the team is still trying to work out what caused that, is just an astonishing admission of incompetence or toadyism that would put even Martin Brundle or Andrew Benson to shame. The first and only rule of gaslighting is admit nothing or deny everything. After this colossal failure in gaslighting the disqualification, Mercedes went on to make grudging references to Sir Lewis's victory, which did not accord with their prior claim that they were looking for positive things to celebrate together. After all, if they could find it in themselves to celebrate the positive achievements in Abu Dhabi, why not the positive achievements in Belgium? Suppressing Sir Lewis's driver of the day victory, for George's donkey of the day disqualification, speaks volumes about Mercedes. Praising George as the tyre whisperer, just before he was disqualified, is a bit like praising Bernie Madoff as the greatest money manager, just before the SEC arrested him. It is just embarrassing, given that Sir Lewis has long been the established standard, and George never even entered the conversation until Toto named him, just minutes before the expected disqualification, that the team had tried desperately to circumvent. One just has to smile at how bad the Mercedes team are at gaslighting. From taking credit for Sir Lewis overruling them, to stay out on slicks in Silverstone, when others were coming in for inters. To taking credit for Sir Lewis leapfrogging George in performance, because of the upgrades that the team gave to both drivers. So, Mercedes are now parroting the mantra of many of his detractors, notably that when he is doing well, it's down to the car, and when he is not doing so well, it's down to him. Well, in the final analysis, we can report that after a difficult start to the season, where he had to overcome internal challenges, Sir Lewis has risen above the fray, to reach the midpoint of the season as the best performing driver in his team, and in the class. It remains to be seen how his team will attempt to continue hindering his progress as they have been doing to date, but we will continue to pray for his safe deliverance to Maranello. Forza Ferrari.